Hi, I am Rishan and my CPM is 19869. The topic for our presentation today is drug addiction and the increase of crime rate in Sri Lanka. I am covering the introduction and the stages of drug addiction. First of all, we will look what is an addiction. Simply, an addiction is an urge to do something that is hard to control or stop. And what are drugs? A drug is a substance which, when taken to the body, alters the body's function either physically or psychologically. Drugs such as alcohol and tobacco are legal, while drugs such as cocaine and heroin are illegal. Then, what is drug addiction? Drug addiction is defined as a chronic disorder that characterized by compulsive drug seeking, continued use despite harmful consequences, and long-lasting changes in the brain. It is considered both a complex brain disorder and a mental illness. Then we will move on to the stages of drug addiction. There are four main stages in drug addiction. The first one is experimentation. Drug addiction starts with experimental use. A more common scenario is that a friend or a family member offers the user a substance. Then in the second stage, it is regular use and abuse. In this stage, it changed the rate of use of drugs from a relational or temporary requirement into a lifestyle. Then in the third stage, it is the dependency and tolerance. As the regular usage progresses, both physical and psychological reliance on the drug is developed. The brain stops releasing chemicals naturally. Therefore, body needs more of the drug in order to regain homeostasis. Then the final and the most dangerous stage is addiction. In this stage, essentially users feel that they are unable to refrain from the substance.
Hi, I'm Shahana. My CPM is 19855. I'm covering section of drug addiction in Sri Lanka. So many social problems are rapidly increasing in these modern societies due to various crimes and socially undesired behaviors. One of them is drug addiction, which has become a major issue in the world as well as Sri Lanka. People have been taking drugs under Ayurvedic medical supervision in limited amounts from the ancient times. The influence of the colonial masters was the main contributing factor to the expansion of the illicit drugs in Sri Lanka from the 16th century to the 17th century. Years later, in the early 1980s, though it was not considered as a serious social problem, an attempt to manufacture heroin in Hikkaduwa was foiled by the police and the laboratory was destroyed. Heroin and cannabis, which is called marijuana, are found to be the most used drugs in Sri Lanka. Drug users get their supply of drugs from the underground drug market, which has its internal and external sources. According to the studies carried out by the National Dangerous Drug Control Board and the Department of the Prisons, children as young as 12 years old have become drug addicts. Also, the youth has been more exposed to the drugs by now. Around 1% of the country's population has become illegal drug addicts. According to the statistic, number of individuals have addicted to the heroin on a regular basis, and it is around 50,000. Also, it is estimated that is around 200,000 to 600,000 individuals are believed to be users of marijuana. Drug addiction has become an important issue due to its impact on public health. It tends to encourage crimes, cause diseases, poverty, and destruction of family life in Sri Lanka.
Hi, I am Chaturya. My CPM is 19851. I will be continuing the section of drug addiction in Sri Lanka with an introduction as to why people get addicted to drugs. There are about 82,000 drug related arrests in Sri Lanka, and about 70% of those arrests have been reported from the western province, and most of them due to the drug cannabis. The Colombo district has reported the highest drug related arrests, and second and third districts are respectively Gampaha and Kurunegala. In Sri Lanka, pretty much all drugs are illegal, with different laws and policies which designed to control drug abuse and regulations on drug scenes. Having drugs such as morphine, opium is highly dangerous practice. Penalty of death, which Sri Lanka courts have interpreted as non-mandatory or life imprisonment, is assigned to individuals who are charged as guilty of manufacturing of heroin, cocaine, morphine, or opium, and the trafficking, possession, export, or import of a minimum amount of 500 grams of heroin, 300 grams of morphine, and 200 grams of cocaine.
Hi, I'm Uma Surya, CPM 19872. I will continue the section Why Do People Get Addicted to Drugs? Emotional factors, in the sense that people think use of drugs may help them to avoid problems in their mind like stress and relationship issues. Physical factors are the feelings that they need drugs to physically feel better as a physical stimulus. Finally, the psychological factors include use of drugs due to frustration channeled toward themselves or the world at large. That is a broad classification of most possible reasons of drug addiction. However, we can simply identify the common reasons for this severe issue by looking at the environment that we live in. Experimentation and curiosity. Some people start using narcotics to experiment its effects. One may feel that he should try drugs because of peer pressure, where their friends may be using them. Curiosity about such things can lead individuals to use drugs. Self-medication is another factor. In this case, quite often, the victims are of elderly population. When people feel physically or emotionally unhealthy, they may use medications like painkillers that are not prescribed by a doctor. Some of these medications cause addictions. Another factor is environmental influence. The environment that a person has grown up or lived for a long time can influence drug use. There's a higher risk of addiction for people who live in households with drug addiction, abuse, and crime.
Hi, I am Janani and my CPM number is 19871, and I will present the addiction effect of education pressure and financial stress. First one is school and education pressure. Today, with increasing competitiveness of education, students have become more stressed. They should balance workload of classes, school, academic performance, and extra activities and personal and family time on top of those. So, students tend to use drugs to release this pressure. Peer groups and societies also influence this matter. Next one is career and financial stress. Career pressure and financial stress is another main factor that present these worldwide issues. Many people face emotional and psychological stress because of this pressure from their jobs. So, there is a possibility of people turning to drugs to get away from stress and failure. Also, some people cannot tolerate financial stress. Financial stress is the worry, fear, and anxiety about debit payment and cost of living, which stem from being unable to live the life that they dream of having. Overthinking such issues make people emotionally unhealthy where they seek the help of drugs to forget them. In addition to these reasons, many other factors that contribute this one: loneliness, boredom, and separation.
Hi, I am Chamodi Sankarpani. My CPM number is 19883. I will be making general introduction on consequences of narcotic addiction. Consequences of drug addiction. We can see numeric consequences of drug addiction. It can harm person mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually. Some of these affect withstand even after person has stopped use of drugs. Use of drugs can lead both long-term and short-term changes in brain. Brain reactions are severely affected by drugs, and it can lead some mental issues such as depression, aggressions, and anxiety and paranoia. Usually, people who use drugs are more vulnerable to these type of mind disorders than normal healthy person. When we talk physically consequences, these potent substances have potential to carry a person's most delicate organs to death. So, use of drugs can result in long-term diseases. Use of drugs can result in long-term health issues. They harms some organs and systems in the body, such as stomach, brain, heart, liver, and causes of cancers and contracting diseases like HIV. The drug addictors can be identified by talking in their appearance and body posture. Because drugs affect the person's skin of the persons as well, acne, skin lesions, rushes, and lip burns we can see.
Hi, I am Hansani, CPMS 19875, and I will be talking about the social and spiritual consequences of drug addiction. Today, social consequences of drug addiction have received more attention. Families of drug addicts are usually subjected to psychological and physical abuse. This leads to many problems, such as family disputes, divorces, and most importantly, domestic abuse. Also, such people are rejected from the society. Jobless, dropping out school, hospitalizations, troubled relationships, and legal problems occur because of drug addiction. Not only that, this also causes financial problems. Feeling hopeless, lonely, scared, guilt, ashamed, dishonest, and unhappy are the spiritual consequences of drug abuse. Ultimately, these feelings can alter the personality and identity of the person. It changes the person's brain chemistry and behavior over a period, and it eventually leads to an acceleration of the crime rate in the country. Poverty, lack of social values, personality disorders are some social problems faced by the people in the society, and they tend to use drugs and crime such as theft and murder as an alternative for their problems which makes the situation worse. According to the statistical data presented by the Sri Lankan police, the crime rate in Sri Lanka has increased significantly through the past years, and as a result of addiction to narcos drugs, may people have committed suicide, and most of them are males.
Hi, I'm Raihana and my CPM is 19865. I will be speaking about the immortal ways that drug addicts obtain money. Drug addicts spend most of their wealth and earnings on buying drugs. And if there is a shortage of fund to obtain their dosage of drugs, they automatically head to obtain the relevant funds either from legitimate or illegitimate ways. They try to obtain the relevant funds from their family members, friends, and loved ones by using different tricks such as making up fantasies to win the sympathy of others. Sometimes they sell the most valuable things they possess, such as jewelry, home, and land deeds. And if they cannot obtain the relevant funds from legitimate ways, they tend to engage in criminal activities, and most of the time their family members become the victims of that. The rate of domestic violence, verbal and physical harassment have increased due to this, as drug abusers have gone out of control. Media exposes such crimes in a routine basis. A person has killed his own brother as he had not given him money to buy drugs. Example like this reflects the danger and extremeness of drug addiction. Further, crimes like theft and housebreaking have also increased due to drug addiction and drug trafficking. When they are unable to collect the relevant funds, they automatically get engaged in these activities as their only aim is to obtain drugs, and they are not concerned about the peace of the society.
Hi, I'm Chatura and my CPM is 19816. So I'm going to cover the relationship between rising crimes and drug addiction. There is a steady rise of sexual offences in Sri Lanka, such as rape, incest, and sexual abuses. These offences have been steadily increased in Sri Lanka with a partial influence of drug addiction and trafficking, but mainly due to the over-sexualization and mental illness. Sometimes the drug addicts try to harm their family members without any guilt, as they are out of control and are in a bad mental condition due to drug usage. In Sri Lanka, sexual offences have been increasing with an average annual rate of 6.57%. As the demand for drugs are increasing steadily, their price will also have been increased. Under conditions like this, obtaining funds for drugs is more difficult than before. As a result, the rate of robberies also have been increased. Since the usage of drugs provokes aggressive thought behavior of people, it supplies the foundation to create group of underworld criminals. These groups are more likely to engage in pre-planned and well-organized murders to attack rival drug gangs. In the future, these drug gangs become drug dealers and distribute drugs all over the country, which might spoil our entire future generation. The society is adversely affected due to drug abuses, but it is only the drug traffickers make living out of this. And drug trafficking is considered as a severe crime in Sri Lanka. As the people with drug addiction disrupt the harmony of the society by causing severe harm to their family members and the people in the society, it is an urgent requirement to implement necessary measures to mitigate this problem.
Hello, I'm Savisha Samaravira and my CPM is 19844. I will be covering on how as a nation we can mitigate the drug menace and rehabilitating former users of drugs. Rehabilitation centers play a crucial role in helping drug addicts reclaim their lives again. The Metsevana Drug Rehabilitation Center in the Central Province, the Kambakadu Rehabilitation Center, the Mercy Community Drug Rehabilitation Center are some of them which are already functioning in Sri Lanka. Setting up such rehabilitation centers and improving their quality of service would help the drug addicts to get rid of the drug usage and maintain a good physical and mental health while being a good citizen to the nation. And appropriate medical supplies and treatment programs must be definitely carried out to reclaim their lives from drug addiction. Also, implementing an appropriate legal framework for the elimination of drug distribution and drug usage is essential. Poison, opium and dangerous drug ordinance, the Penal Code Ordinance, the Code of Criminal Procedure Act are some of the legislations that have been enacted in Sri Lanka against drug usage and drug trafficking. Improving the quality of such legislations is important, and also making necessary amendments continuously to stay ahead of the drug addiction and trafficking crimes is very important. Further, there are many government organizations in Sri Lanka like the Sri Lanka Police Department, Sri Lankan Customs, the Dangerous Drug Control Board, the three forces including the Sri Lankan Navy support the government to prevent drug distribution. By providing more severe punishments to people who are engaged in such activities would help pluck the roots of the drug menace in Sri Lanka, which is drug distribution and drug marketing to the society that happens in the black markets of Sri Lanka. We also know that prevention is anyway better than cure. Now that is a famous proverb. Thus, our society should go ahead and implement preventive measures against the usage of drugs. Prevention programs should be carried out involving all family members, students and all communities. Media can play an essential role regarding providing awareness programs to the society so that they understand the social, spiritual, mental, physical consequences of drug usage. And all the parents, the teachers and healthcare providers must educate the children from childhood about the negative impacts of drug usage to promote healthy lives as citizens, useful lives as citizens in a drug-free Sri Lanka. Thank you.